Hi, everybody. 2 February 2nd. We are already into the second month of 2024. So, how's it going so far? I feel like this is a year of transformation. And I know I feel that very strongly in my life. Both the nudges and whispers of the universe, and also just so many things bubbling up inside of me of like, "Oh, yes, I'm ready to change that. I'm ready to, like, make a difference in my life." Yeah, Groundhog's Day. I haven't seen that movie in a really long time, but it is a good one structurally. Thank you, Anna. Yes, this is my 50th anniversary Disney jacket. It's my favorite, and I love it. So I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna wear that today." Just because it's so fun. Woodland Lady says it feels like a transformation for me too. And oh, it's your birthday. Congratulations. That's so exciting. Oh my goodness. It's a good sign for your trip. Renee is coming to America. Well, I guess you're in America, but just not the United States. But Renee is coming to Florida. I wish she was coming to Texas, but maybe that'll be the next trip. Um, in a short while, not too far. Oh, Holly says, I finished A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It was so good. It's so good. Keep reading because the second book is also good, but the third book is my favorite. Love, love, love. Hello from Wales. Hello, hello. Oh my goodness. It's so strange how everyone I speak to believes 2024 is the year from them. Any ideas why? So I am not an astrologer, but there's probably people that could talk to you about that in terms of the astrological changes and things like that. I personally feel like it's this sort of we're going to talk a little bit about the death card today and 2 energy and intuition and just that transformation energy, choice energy, discovery energy, because I feel like it's strong and it's 2 and it would be a perfect time to talk about it. But I think so many of us got so much of our lives, obviously, I mean, all of us had our lives sort of fruit basket turnover to one degree or another over the last few years since 2020. And, you think about that being the turn of the decade. And now we're kind of getting to those few middle years of the decade. And it just feels like it's part of the journey. Like we sort of had to pivot in a way globally we haven't had to do in our lifetimes. And, we're moving into a period of like, okay, now that we have sort of settled in from that and everybody's more like there's an awareness and awakening, at least among the people that I spend my time with about the fact that we really have to stop this sort of hustle is the only way mentality that we've been caught up in. And I'm not saying everybody has been in a hustle mentality, but I just think like before the pandemic hit, there was so many people teaching this idea of like rapid release, super fast, hustle culture, be consistent, post 5 times a day. And it was this mentality of like, by whatever means possible, I will reach my dreams by whatever means possible. I will do whatever it takes, right? And then when we had to kind of slow down and other things are becoming apparent, like, oh gosh, my health actually matters. And I maybe don't like hustling that hard and having to, to work that hard for everything. Plus, then, I mean, I don't want to get into this conversation too deep, but I think also the I'm trying to think exactly how to bring it up without it being too depressing, but there just became as everybody moved to, like, so much of our lives being online, there also became a lot of unhappy people criticizing just about everybody, and it would be like, "Oh my goodness, you use plastic? I'm gonna call and make sure your job cancels you forever," or, "You should, like, lose your whole life," and actual violent threats online and all kinds of things for just simple stuff mixed in with the things that were really hard to open our eyes to. And I think that it is just one of those sort of global transformations. Oh, I need to turn my phone off. Um, where we just are starting to understand that, like, maybe my priority right now is to feel safe. I just want to feel safe and get back to joy. I don't want to have to live in a world that is so uncertain all the time. Like, there are going to be certain things that are uncertain all the time anyway. Like, we can't predict the future. We don't know about certain, anyone else's activities or anyone else's opinions. Like, there's a lot of things that are out of our control. But I think a lot of us have come to this place where we're sort of like, okay, well, I do have some things in my control, and I'm going to try my best to get those things under control and to try to be the person that I want to be in the world. And it's not everybody. Of course, we cannot be everybody. Everybody is not going to be on the same journey or the same path for sure. But I do think for a lot of us, 2024 is a year of sort of coming out of that previous trauma and discovery and saying, okay, who do I want to be? I've been through the fire. Who do I want to be? And now the challenge of this year for me, and the challenge for many people I know and have talked to recently, is, how, even if I know who I want to be, how do I show up for myself and trust myself to become it? And there are certain things in my life that I have known intuitively. We've talked about this before, that it's like, I need to do that. That is on my mind. That is something that has been aligned. So we're going to talk about alignment today. That is something that has been very aligned for me for a long time. And yet, when I get into stress and tension and pressure, and I start to feel uncertain, or I start to not trust myself, or I start to feel scared, and I move from fear instead of moving from a place of joy or certainty or safety, then I fall back into old routines, and I fall back into ways of being that I didn't want to be. And some of it is serious and some of it is very just simple, but it all makes a difference when I look in the mirror, when I walk into my room, when I talk to my friends, when I show up in the world. It all makes a difference, and it all makes a cumulative effect, right? Craftsy says, I work for an allergist and had one patient who was pitching a fit. If we had to close for 2 weeks in the beginning, he was going to miss his allergy shots. And I listen, I know some of this stuff is important, right? Like, allergy shots, once you've gotten off of them and off a routine, it matters, right? But we have all been, I don't know. I think that there have been there's just been a lot of extra stressors. And I think a lot of people are acting in ways that they don't necessarily want to act, and they're being people they don't necessarily want to be. And it gets difficult when this is why I try my best to have empathy for people who are cruel online, even though it can be hurtful, is I try to think, oh my gosh, like, what kind of inner turmoil and awfulness must they be going through in their lives to lash out so harshly against people just for, like, the color lipstick they wore, or a choice of words, or like the way they didn't show up for 1 week because they were sick. Like, people lash out. And I think that a lot of that is coming from a place of, I am not living the life that I wanted to live. I'm not being the person I want to be. And I have lost hope that I'm ever going to be it. And so I'm going to lash out at everybody who's living a life that in some way mirrors the life I wish I could have for myself. And so I try to come these days with compassion and think, wow, like, that person must be having a really hard time. And I just wish them the best. And I hope that they find their path through it. But for me personally, sometimes I have less compassion for myself. I tend to be pretty hard on myself. And sometimes that journey of, like, I wish it would be easy to say, oh, let me stop for a moment and say, this is what I'm aligned with. This is the person that I want to be. And then just wake up tomorrow and start taking action that would cause me to be that. Because, like, so often the things that I want to do and be, all I have to do is just show up, right? Like, show up and write the book, finish the book, get the book done, eat the right foods that you know are going to support your health. Thank you, Hannah. Like, show up and spend time with the friends that you want to spend time for. Be a good mom to your kids. Like, I can say those things. Pick up your room, put together these dang bookcases, right? There's so many things. And I think part of the magic of 2-2, which is specifically where this conversation is coming from today, is balance, right? You think about we have two hands, we have one side, and often things are in pairs, black and white, opposites and things like that, yin and yang. And so this is some of this idea of masculine, feminine energy, which of course has nothing to do with gender. It's just these two kind of energies that are at play within all of us, and as well as choices that we have to make. Like so often when we're making choices, it's this or this. And so the energy and the magic you might be feeling on 2/2 this time of year is this idea of how can I be kind to myself, give myself grace, rest when I need it, you know, show up with sympathy and love and kindness and gentleness within myself. But then how can I also make sure that I'm disciplined and focused enough to become the person I want to be in the world and to follow through? And that for me is sort of the 2/2 and the balance that I'm coming across is like, how can I be a girl boss, for lack of a better term. Apologies to people who hate that term, because I know there are some people that are like, I hate that. I used the term in a group once, mompreneur, because I love that term because I'm like, yes, I'm a mom who's also, making money and running businesses. I love it. And somebody was like, oh my gosh, that's so offensive. And I hate that term. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. But I always loved that term. But I apologize for anybody who doesn't like girl boss. You say women boss, whatever if you want. Um, but it's like, how can I be this like girl boss, seven-figure earning, kick butt author who gets things done and shows up and supports people and like just all those kind of things. Yeah, I kind of agree, Abby. But also be the person who doesn't glorify like busyness as a way of being, who doesn't teach my daughter that I'm working all the time, who doesn't like get mad at myself because it took me a month to get bookcases up, and just is able to say, oh, look at all the evidence of the places that I'm growing, and look at all the evidence of the places that I am giving myself the space and the kindness I need. Because, there are times when pushing ourselves or saying, okay, the time is now, I'm done, I'm tired of my own BS, I'm ready to start moving forward. That can be a energy that serves. But then there are other times where that energy of just keep pushing, you're almost there, you're a badass who can get it done, whatever, that energy can also be damaging at certain times. And so part of understanding the balance and understanding who you are in this moment is sort of also tapping into this inner side of ourselves and our inner intuition and our own personal alignment to be able to say, okay, let me drown out the noise of the world for a moment. Let me put myself in a bubble for just a minute so I can't hear anyone else's noise. And let me decide for myself right now, what season am I in and what energy is going to most serve me today. And it could be one thing today and something different tomorrow. Yesterday, I was in a mode of like, I just need some gaming time with my friends. I need a day off. I need some self-care. I need some, pizza or whatever. But today I was in a mood of like, you know what? I'm getting up, I'm getting on the treadmill. I am going to believe in myself. I'm going to journal by the fire. I'm going to spend some time with my kids outside. I'm going to go look at the chickens. We have chickens out back. George bought some chickens yesterday. So they are roosting in our shed. I'm very excited about this. Um, so like I'm just going to go and enjoy it. And I'm going to go stand outside with the mist on my face and just be so proud of who I am today. And that was the energy I needed to show up with today. And I think, you know, sometimes we feel like we have to be in the most consistent energy in order to grow and move forward. But sometimes these days I'm thinking it's not about consistent energy. What needs to be consistent is that I'm showing up for myself in whatever way I feel I need to be supported today. Like what's consistent is that I am always believing in myself. I am always my biggest cheerleader. I always know where I want to go. And I always accept and love myself no matter what mistakes I've made, no matter where I feel like I've let people down. I am always going to be the person that says, You didn't let me down. You're exactly who you were meant to be, Sarah. You got this. You are living your life. You're doing the best you can. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And being my own best cheerleader and knowing when I need a moment to say, oh, 222, 222 people. Nobody leave. Everybody stay. It's a brilliant moment. I need my camera. Uh, because it's that sometimes we're going to need a little bit of this energy and sometimes we're going to need a little bit of this energy. And for a very long time I have thought about this idea of I got to show up more consistently. I got to sit down and write even if I don't feel like it. I got to get on the treadmill even if I don't feel like it. I have to eat really strictly. I have to like push myself. I have to show up. I have to get that video out whether or not I have the energy to do it. Like I have to because the algorithms say so and the marketing says I have to. And there is what feels like truth in that message sometimes. Oh, you were 222. Now you did it. I love it. Nobody come in, lock it down, lock it down. Um, I feel like instead of the consistency being all discipline, the consistency message for me, it's time to shift to my consistency is in my self-belief. It's kind of the first time I've ever said it quite that way, and it feels very true. The consistency I need right now in my life is the consistency that I always believe in myself. I always believe where I'm going, and I always trust that no matter what life throws at me, I can handle it. No, don't leave. Next up, multiplier 444. Let's see if we can manifest that. 222 every year. That's my birthday. I love it. Very cool. So those twos energy, I have switched to, speaking of twos, I have switched to a new tarot card set for the month. I don't always switch to a new tarot card set at a new month, but there's a tarot deck called Mystical Moments, Tarot of Mystical Moments, and it's like flowers and just beautiful uh, imagery and things like that. I thought I had lost it, and I love this deck so much, and I was very sad that I had lost it. And so many times I thought about repurchasing, but I kept thinking it's here somewhere, and I loved that specific deck. I loved that deck specifically. And I couldn't find it, looked everywhere, couldn't find it. And when we decided to change up this office, when we took some of the furniture out of the room, guess what was underneath the furniture? Tarot of Mystic Moments. And I squealed. I was like, it's been underneath this furniture somehow this whole time. I have no idea. Probably when we were first moving in, I had all my decks lined out in this room and it probably somehow got swept underneath. So, perfect. But I wanted to, so this is one of the twos. This is one of my favorite two cards, the Two of Wands. And I love the imagery in specifically in this one. So twos can be a choice point. And it's also this energy of like the aces are an energy of like anything is possible, new ideas, fresh opportunities, and things like that. But the twos are often about balance and decisions and this energy of taking those first steps toward the thing that you decided you want. And I always love the Two of Wands as a card just in general in all decks because it's such a positive card. But this one so much is this embodiment of you literally have the world, you're the entire world at your fingertips. And the way that she's kind of looking up at the moon, I guess that is, it kind of looks more like a sun, but the stars are out. So I'm guessing it's just a bright moon. Is like she's sitting on top of a house, which is kind of this idea of your safety, right? Your foundation. You're sitting on top of the house. You have the ground underneath you, so to speak. Like you have your home underneath you and all of your trust, but you're holding the world in your hands. And you're looking up at the moon and realizing that anything you can dream of is possible for you. And this particular, like that's always the feeling that I've had for the Two of Wands, but this particular card is just such the perfect embodiment of that message. And so 2-2, we're moving into the days are going to start getting longer again, and we're moving into spring is not so far off. Like, we at least have dreams of spring coming, except those of you in the southern hemisphere don't want to forget you that you've got fall on its way. But there's this idea of when we tap into this message of two, this balance, this choice, understanding that it's a balance of both. I've got my feet underneath me. I feel safe. I am okay where I am. And at the same time, I am safe to dream of things that are going to push me out of our comfort zone, that are going to be the biggest dreams I've ever dreamed. The deck is called the Tarot of Mystical Moments. It's such a great deck by Katrin Veltstein. It's so cool. I would say this is not the best booklet, because I feel like most of the booklet here is just a description of what's on the card, like the actual description. The Queen of Swords is sitting on a balloon, blah, blah, blah. And then all it says about the meaning of the card is like upright, independent thinker, honest communication, straight shooter. Like, it's not a great deck booklet, but the cards are gorgeous. But to me, two is very much this idea of, I am safe exactly where I am. I have everything I need right here. And I am really looking forward to all the amazing things that are on the way. And I get to create that life for myself. And all I have to do is dream and decide, and then start taking that motion, which is going from the ace to the two to the three. And the threes is where we really start taking action on the plan. The two is still some daydream energy, I feel like. 222, where you are. Yay. I love it. Sabina says it is now 2/2/2024 at 22:22, 10:22 p.m. I'm a night owl and need my Sarah Coven Friday coffee chat fix. So many twos this year, and so much strength and judgment, justment energy this year too. Yes, I love it. 4:22 in Eastern, 3:23 now. So yes, somebody said something about it being an 8-year too. Where was that? I missed it. But I have seen that come up in astrology and other things as well. Another card, this is not, two energies, but this is the Death card, which is the card that I drew this morning in my morning tarot. Look at how cool that is. Hopefully it's kind of zeroing in on there and not blurry, but it's so cool because it's like she has flowers literally growing in her rib cage. Like, it's just very cool. This idea of like transformation, rebirth, this juxtaposition of death and skeleton, with these gorgeous flowers and like a hummingbird at her side. Let's see if is it a butterfly or a hummingbird? I can't see. It's a butterfly. So we have a butterfly, and we have these gorgeous flowers growing up through her rib cage. It's really so beautiful. And then you've got these like lilies and what are the little blue flowers down there? I'm trying to think what that's called. Hibiscus or something I wanted to say, but that's not what it is. It is so beautiful. It's called the Tarot of Mystical Moments. I think, like, this morning when I woke up and I was like, okay, I had a kind of a down day yesterday. I'm going to wake up today, and I'm going to, oh, you know what? I think it might be hyacinth. The little blue ones that are like in little clusters. I think it's hyacinth. Pretty sure. Somebody tell me if you know. I woke up today and I thought, okay, there are lots of things out of my control, but it is within my control to decide what my attitude is going to be today and whether or not I'm going to live in alignment with my biggest dreams. Because one of the things that I have known for a while is that I need to get my body moving. And this was a big this was a big message for me when we were traveling a lot and we were living in Airbnbs and there were lots of stressors. Like, we don't even need to go into details, but just so much stress on moving and traveling and keeping the kids safe and just doing all those things. And I had this day where we were in Houston for a little bit and I just had a breakdown. I was I was in a bad, difficult place, and George was like it was like a place that had 4 stories. It was like a rooftop and then 3-story, townhouse, and the bottom floor just had 1 bedroom and a garage, and he was like, "Why don't you go on the roof and do some, like, yoga or stretching or something, and you can see kind of all of downtown Houston, and it'll be, like, really nice for you." And I went up there, and it was one of those moments as I was just doing some light stretching, I had this voice in my head that was like, "You need to be moving your body and spending more time outside." And this is a time when I was going through a lot of anxiety, like waking up every morning feeling like I couldn't breathe kind of anxiety. Thankfully, I'm not in that place now, but I was having lots of days like that where I woke up in turmoil in the mornings. And it was such a clear voice in my head. And this, to me, it wasn't a shout. It was just another um, moment where my intuition sort of tapped on my shoulder and said, "You got to start moving your body. You got to spend more time outside." And again, I know anytime we talk about health or whatever, everyone here has been here before, hopefully, at least in uh, replays. If not, welcome. But I never talk about it as a way to say this is what you should do too, because this is all about personal alignment and we're all in different seasons. But this was just something that I heard, and this was in 2021, 2022. What year? 2021, late 2021. I heard this voice that was like, "This is important for you, that you need to be doing this. This would really, really support you." But for some reason, how many years now? 2, 3, almost 3 years, 2.5 years, I have not really been doing that. It has been inconsistent. Some days we'll go for walks outside and a lot of days of not going outside. A lot of days of sitting in here and looking at the outside, but not really going out and enjoying the land that we have or the local parks or any of that stuff. And even though I need it, I haven't been doing it. And then we bought a treadmill last year and still only hopped on it every once in a while. And it's so important for me personally right now in my life that I start moving my body. And I really feel 1,000% like it's not just a feeling, it is an internal knowing that walking more, particularly outside. George and I went for two walks this week outside. It was kind of rainy today, so I walked on the treadmill. But getting out to the park and going out to get a coffee and hang out for a little bit and talk, it's a sacrifice in the day because I can't be as productive, but I have found both times that I've done that the next day when I get up to write, the words are flowing so much better. And it's like even though it doesn't seem like it's productive time because I'm outside and I'm just not even working and who do I think I am? It's productive for my mental health and it's productive for my creativity to get outside and get moving and get walking. And then when I come back, I'm always, plus it's the talking, George and I talking to each other, sharing ideas, being excited. And then it's just, oh my gosh, this is so fun. And then I come back the next morning and I start writing. And I'm like, oh, that's what happens. That's what happens. And I start making all these connections. And so here's kind of the message there is that for multiple years, sometimes there are things that we know are out of alignment for us. And we may have things that are going well and things that we know we're taking action on stuff we need to do. So, like maybe you are showing up for your job that you want or your dream, or maybe you are like reading more books, or you're showing up great for your job, or you're making more money. Like there can be lots of things that you might be doing that you needed to do. But many of us also have at least one or more things that our intuition has been telling us sometimes it starts as a whisper and then it grows and grows and grows. And sometimes it's just a constant tapping on your shoulder. There's something deep inside that says, you need to be doing this. You need to be doing this. And it's not like, I think there can be a difference between self judgment, like things that we don't actually need to do that we just feel like society is telling us we should have been doing this, we should have been doing this, but things that we know aren't aligned for us. I feel like I always talk about TikTok in this way because it's one of those things that I always feel FOMO about because so many authors are like, I make $1 million a year on because of TikTok. And I'm always like, I'm not on TikTok. So I always feel FOMO about it. Maybe someday I will join in and start doing short form TikTok content, but it's just a good example is that even like sometimes I will hear that voice of you should really be on TikTok, but it's never coming from a place of like, this is what I deeply need to do. Instead, it's coming from a place of, oh gosh, everyone else is doing this. I really should do it, right? Like I would probably see some benefit from it. And it always is coming from some place of pressure or a place of fear of missing out. We'll see you later, Envy. Publish and Thrive tomorrow. Let's do it. Um, so that's just one example, but it could be anything, it could be anything. So some of the questions sometimes can be, how do I know the difference between what messages are coming from alignment and what messages in my soul are coming from true soul deep knowing of this is who I need to be? By the way, somebody asked what candle I'm burning. This is the Dream Life candle from Lunam Love. I figured it was a perfect time to talk about dream life. So there we go. Sometimes I think it can be hard to distinguish. So here we get back to the 2, the balance of it, that on one hand, we have things that we feel we need to do out of fear. And it's a message that keeps recurring in our brains because we just keep thinking, oh, I got to do that. What if I'm missing out? I'm leaving money on the table, or I'm missing an opportunity, or I really should be volunteering more, like out of obligation, out of fear, out of pressure. And then we also have the things that are whispers that are things inside our head all the time that are like, oh, you really should be going out more. You really should be getting out and exercising more, or you really should be eating healthier, or you need to be drinking more water, or whatever. And sometimes it can be hard to distinguish what voice should I listen to, like which one is my intuition and which one is just pressure and fear. And Catherine's in Kina, who is the manifestation babe, sometimes she talks about how the voice of fear will be emotionally, energetically charged. Like it will feel emotional, like, I should be doing that. Like, oh, I feel so guilty. Oh, this is really scary. Or it'll feel really tense, or it'll feel really like have a lot of emotion to it. Like you should, shameful or whatever kind of energy. Whereas your intuition will be neutral. It'll just be like, this would be so helpful for you. Kind of like encouraging, like, it's time to get on the treadmill. You feel so good when you're out here. And I think that is a pretty good, I think that's a pretty good definition kind of, in a way. But sometimes I think if you're not tapped into really feeling the difference between fear and intuition, it can be difficult to distinguish them. I don't think intuition says you should. Maybe I want. Yeah, I think should, when you think of should energy, so often that is tied in with shame, with fear, with missing out, with like obligation energy. Whereas really that intuitive energy is maybe not a should energy. That's a good point. Maybe it's more of um, a, it's more of a, just a knowing, like, this is who I am, is the kind of person who goes outside and takes walks because it feels so good to me when I do it. And so maybe it's less should energy and it's more of just a knowing inside of yourself. And then maybe sometimes when we haven't been doing it and doing it and doing it in our own brain, it becomes a message to ourselves of, oh, you've heard this message, you should be doing it. So I think sometimes that's where it gets layered on top. But I certainly don't have all the answers there. For me, intuition is just, it's such a deeper knowing. So for me, the way I sort of think of it in my own body is a fear response is almost always coming from a place of what other people will think of me or what result I'm afraid I won't get unless I do this. I don't know if I said that exactly in a way that makes sense, but for example, it's sort of like if I say I should be putting out more consistent YouTube videos, or here's a good one. Like I think I mentioned that I had a YouTube expert last year was telling me I should be putting out more like 10-minute videos. Um, because I would grow faster if I put out shorter videos that were more scripted. And so that is something that gets into my head externally that just is like, oh, maybe I should be doing that. Maybe my numbers would be better. Maybe I would grow faster. Gosh, look at these other people, and inspires this comparison and all these other things, because I'm like, I want my message to be out there. I want to reach as many people as possible. And I can see evidence that if I had a short video, that maybe that would work out for me. But my intuition, like if I did that 10-minute videos specifically, it would be coming from a place of, I'm afraid if I do long videos, people won't like me, or I'm afraid if I do long videos, I'll get less views or less subscribers. And that is purely me moving from a place of fear. Whereas on the opposite side, intuitively, when I start talking, I just have a lot of stuff to say. And there are people maybe who don't like that. And that's okay, because maybe they're just not my people. But like when I sat down to make that video the other day that went up yesterday about my Project Phoenix, I was not expecting it to be 54 minutes long, but that's what came out. And I had to pull back the should fear part of me that's like, redo it, cut this out, try to get it down to 20 minutes, cut it into 3 videos. Like I just had to breathe deeply and go with, this is what feels aligned for me, is to share this deep information. And so often, and this is not a criticism of anybody else's style, but so often when someone covers a topic that really is a big topic and they do it in 10 minutes, I leave feeling like I didn't really learn anything that I didn't already know. And then I feel like, oh, I really wish they had gone deeper. And maybe they'll say one thing and I'll think, man, I want to hear more about that. But then they never come back because they're just always making 10-minute videos. And that, that's fine. Those people have millions of followers. It's great. But if I think about my truest goal for having a YouTube channel, it is not to be short-winded and have 1 million followers. That's not the goal at all. My goal is, how much examples, how accessible can I make this information? How can I explain it in 3 different ways, or approach it in both a visual and a explanatory way, so that as many people as possible who are really interested in learning something can understand it. And that is more my goal. How can I create a community of people who are here to share with each other and continue to learn? How can I really share the stuff that I have learned and try to help other people? And sometimes it's a catch-22, because sometimes I share so much that people say, oh, it's too overwhelming, I can't do all of that stuff. So there's always that sort of like, how can I continue to be encouraging, but also share the truth of what I'm doing? Because not everybody is like me, likes to do as many things. But that to me is an example of intuition and alignment. And it's like, the alignment and the intuition and following who I am, it's not always going to be the thing that's the most popular. And I think that in and of itself, that idea of wanting to be popular, or wanting to, or not wanting to, but like, you're rewarded if you hit 100,000 subscribers. And some people think you're better if you hit 100,000 subscribers, like, oh, your channel must be better, or you have all this extra doors open for you. And sometimes, as a high achiever, I'm a number 3 Enneagram, I get very attracted to that sparkling idea of being having an achievement, to be able to say, like, I want someday to have a YouTube plaque on my wall that says 100,000 subscribers. That would be super awesome. But this is where the balance comes in, is I can want that and I can dream about it, but my best path to it is not going to be, following somebody else's idea of who I need to be. The only way I want that path is if I get to be myself all the way there. And that's the clearest way I can explain it. I would rather have 1,000 subscribers and be fully myself and fully showing up for the people that I was meant to reach than have a million subscribers and be pretending to be someone I'm not. And I sometimes for me, that's the balance I have to find is that achiever energy versus the alignment energy. And when they can work together and they can say, I hit 100,000 subscribers, being myself all the way there. And I'm certainly not saying that everyone who has a million subscribers wasn't themselves, because that's not at all what I'm saying, like, not even a little bit. I'm just saying for me, I don't wanna get there pretending to be something I'm not. And I think there are some people who do that and some people who get there authentically. And most likely, the people who get there authentically are the people who are the happiest once they reach it because they're being fulfilled by something other than just the achievement. They're being fulfilled by the connection and the soul truth of themselves that they're able to share. So I went off on a major tangent there, but yes. So I was going to answer questions today too. How does 40 minutes go by in 5 seconds? I don't know. But for me, death card, like when I woke up this morning and I was like, I can see how even though it's like a constant correction, it's a practice of saying, it's time to realign yourself, realign yourself, realign yourself. And it's not a one time, this is where I want to go. And now I'm the person I'm meant to be. It's a daily realignment of saying, "Oh yeah, this is who I said I was gonna be here. This is the priority. This is," just constantly kind of bringing myself back to that alignment. And every time I do it, where I really it's almost like you're sort of like, you're on a I'm trying to think like you're on a just on a street somewhere and you like look off in the distance and you kind of turn your car that way. Oh, and then you hear the like brrr on the side of the road because you got off of the road somewhere. I think that's kind of, I mean, obviously those sort of wake up strips, what are those things called? Do they have them in all countries? I'm curious. I don't actually know. But it's like when you get a little bit off the alignment of where your car is supposed to be going, it has those like sort of wake up strips that start making noise when your tire hits them. Rumble strips. I was like, I know that it's not called wake up strips, but somebody will know. So they are in Australia. Let me know if you don't have those where you live. I mean, they're not on every road, but they're most places, right? So rumble strips are there to wake you up. And in some ways, I feel like that's what our intuition is too, that when we get far enough off the path, at first, it's maybe gonna start with just a very simple whisper, but eventually, yeah, it's a shock to the system. Eventually, it gets loud enough or wakes you up enough that you go, "Whoa, I am definitely off track." And the more we ignore that voice inside ourselves and we stay out of alignment, out of alignment, out of alignment, that's when we end up with people who come onto YouTube channels and say, "You're ugly, you're stupid," whatever. And we have a world full of people who just like to spend their time behind an invisible screen or a keyboard or whatever and just be mean to people. And I feel like it's because their rumble strips are going off and they are not paying attention. They're not waking up. And I just feel for myself, you guys know the biggest story of that happening in my life happened on Labor Day. I was just talking to Rebecca about this earlier. Um, on Labor Day, I don't even know which year, 2005 maybe, that my house burned. And it was such a wake up. It's like a shock to my system. And all these things just cascaded and layered in to wake me up from this life I was living that was not in it was so far out of alignment. The universe was like, wake her up. She's got work to do. Um, and now I try very hard not to allow myself to get to the point of the rumble strips are like I'm already in the ditch. Like I got to listen to that bump that says not in alignment, not in alignment. And it has nothing to do with what anyone else thinks of me. And there are going to be people sometimes that don't understand what I'm doing, that don't understand who I'm trying to be, or don't understand my priorities. But as long as I know I'm in alignment, I know I'm always going on the right path. And that eventually, long term, that's going to be exactly whether anyone else can see, that's exactly where I was meant to be. So That is my mini mini TED Talk, I think Kelly just called it. Oh my goodness. I'm like, "I'm gonna answer questions all day today." All right, I think there's only a handful of questions in the Discord. So CL Shaner says, "My question for coffee chat is, when plotting and having romance elements with another plot, like the mystery and beautiful demons, do you layer multiple structure guides, like Romancing the Beat by Gwen Hayes and maybe a Save the Cat for the overall plot?" I don't think you've mentioned using Save the Cat. I do, however, sometimes when I need it. But other plotting guides, if you do use multiple guides, how do you layer them? Thanks for any advice. This is also probably a very long scene. This is probably something I could talk about. I think Emily, if you're here, asked in the Discord, like, do you have any advice for someone working full time as an author? And I'm like, how long do you have? Sometimes there are questions that are too difficult to answer in a small piece of text or in even a single video. But this is something I can help address later because I'm going to be redoing my Plot Your Novel. But when like, for example, if you've got a romance element or a really strong romance, but you also have uh, a mystery. So all of my fantasy novels are like 3-act structure, but they're also a mystery. In the first one, who killed Tori, right? That's a big mystery. And the second one, who are these mysterious people that have come to Peachville and what do they want? In part 3, we're talking about the Crow Witches and things like that. So there's always a mystery in there somewhere. And so I'm using that mystery structure, but I am layering it with just typical 3-act structure as well. And then I also have a B story going on in all of my books that are somehow between romance characters, right? So Harper and Jackson, sometimes multiple, like in Eternal Sorrows, you've got Parrish and Noah, but then later you kind of starting to work on a second romance there. And like same thing in Shadow Demons, there's a second romance that I cannot wait to continue exploring in the final book. But I think one of the best things that I do is I will actually take each of those story structures individually. Like if you had the Save the Cat beats, I would just go through individually and see what hits those beats. And then I will go through individually a mystery structure that I already have kind of written out or pulled from a book or whatever. And I'll take James Scott Bell's like story structure book where he has like the 12 points or whatever he has. And I will do them all individually, like not layering them in. And then once I have them all, I will sit there and I'll see where the commonalities. I've got this beat here, this beat here. How can I weave that in and where does it best fit? But that would be something probably easier to show in a plot breakdown than it would be to just tell you. But I personally, what I like to do when I'm layering things in is so if I'm dealing with a romance subplot, I will specifically go in and plot as many of the like Romancing the Beats plots as I can, the beats in the plot as I can. And then I'll take my 3-act structure and I'll think, okay, this scene, can that be combined and do double duty in a different scene? Or does it need its own scene? And in the structure, does it need to go before or after this other scene? And I'll just start sort of layering them in. And this is where index cards help me out a lot, but I'm also going to be using Plotter more as well. So yeah, I think the more experience I get with multiple POVs, and I have in all of my Shadow Demons books, starting with book 7, there are at least 4 points of view, and each character has a full character arc. But some characters like Erden, his character arc happens over multiple books, not just in one. And so they're not all hitting the midpoint at the same time. Like Erden's hitting his midpoint in book 8. Like some of this stuff is stretched out over multiple books. And it's difficult to even think how I would explain to someone else how I do that. But I will try. I'll try. Okay. Anne says, yes, this is why I'm blocked at 27K because I'm struggling to weave romance and murder mystery into one coherent plot. Yeah, maybe doing a YouTube video on that would be super helpful. Oh, I have a knot in my hair. What's happening there? It's from the jacket, I think. Yeah, weaving them in. What I would recommend is just take the romance out, like do the murder mystery plot, and then look at the romance individually and think, what scenes do I need to make this romance work? And that's part of what I've done in The Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw, because there's a romance in there as well. And then there's also a second romance in the past tense romance. And so I've had to take each one of these individually and think, how did these relationships progress? And then put them back into the main plot and think, how can I weave this into what's existing? And that for me helps rather than trying to just take it all at once, which can feel overwhelming. All right, Cassandra says, I hope I'm doing coffee chat right. My question is, do I need multiple pen names if I plan to self-pub and traditionally published? I plan on publishing different books, obviously, but I wasn't sure if traditional pub would now allow me to have self-pub books under the same name. So sometimes it's going to depend on your publisher, and it's definitely going to depend on the genres that you're writing. So if, for example, so my pen name is Sarra Cannon, which is my maiden name. If I decided that I wanted to try to go into traditional publishing, and I was also going to write like fantasy or young adult or even young adult thrillers or whatever, they would want me to use my name because I already have a following in those genres, and it's going to be close enough that they're going to get more sales if they can combine with my current audience. However, if I wanted to sell to traditional publishing and I was going to write something very different than what I'd already written before, like let's say I was going to write alternate historical, I don't know, mysteries or something, they might want me to use a different name because I have no following and they want to make sure that it's, you know, that I'm not sort of polluting my own algorithm by bringing in fans that don't typically read that. That might not even be a great example, but just if the genres are so different, plus, maybe there's a situation here and there where it's like you self-published, but you didn't do it very successfully and all your books have like 2-star reviews and you kind of have a bad reputation with your self-publishing name. They might want you to use a different one just so you don't have that same, sort of, they don't want to bring that over. But if they see it at all as an advantage, they'll want you to use the same name. But it's most of the time you're going to use the same name, like probably 85% of the time. But if there's some reason they want to separate you from that name by genre or reputation or some other kind of thing, then they might ask you to do that. Anna says, do you think it's worth buying vellum to format your own books or pay someone else to format them? Do you format your own? Yes, I 1000% recommend vellum to format your books if you have a Mac. If you don't have a Mac, I would definitely look into Atticus, which you can do on Mac or PC. But for me, it's so valuable to have something that I can format my own books because if you need to make changes, it's so much easier and cheaper to just do it yourself. Whereas there's a host of problems that can come about paying someone else to format your books. Now, sometimes if you're doing special editions with like bleed and images and all that stuff, you either want to learn something maybe more complex than vellum, or you want to hire someone for that special edition. But what can really cause problems is if you hire someone to format your books and then they lose the files, go out of business, stop responding to you. When you have a last minute emergency that you're like, oh my gosh, there's this huge typo and I got to go change it. You can't do it because you can't hear from those people. Now you got to find somebody else and you have to go through the process and you have to pay them from scratch. And it can be a big mess. And that happened to me. I had all 6 of my paperbacks done by someone and they were beautiful. And some of you may have them. They had some pretty designs on them. The whole first page of every chapter had a big like image on them, whatever. And then when I went to go change my titles from the Peachville High Demon series to the Shadow Demon Saga, I reached back out to that artist and said, okay, I need to reformat these paperback editions because I am changing the title of the book and I need to change some of the interior. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry, I lost all of your files. And that was like $600 of stuff that I had to pay that she didn't even keep. And because the files are gone, you can't easily recreate them just from a PDF, right? So it could be possible that somebody could go in and split that PDF and change just the title page. Like I know I could have gone that direction, but it was just like I couldn't go in and change any of the typos. I couldn't change the chapter titles. It had like the wrong series name on every page. It would have been a nightmare to try to take the existing PDF. So I was like, well, let me do them all myself. And that is one of the main reasons I would format them yourself if you can. And Vellum, Atticus make it very, very easy. And you can use something free like Readsy or Draft to Digital, and you can also make them look really great. But it's just having the power to be able to do it yourself when you need a quick update. Like right now, I talked in my video yesterday, I'm going to be redoing all of my formats, all of my files, and I'm going to be coming out with like large print and hardcovers and other things. It would be very expensive, way more than it would cost to buy Atticus or Vellum 2 or 3 more times to go through and have someone else create large format, paperback, ebooks in 6 different vendors. All those different versions would cost me a ton to get it changed. And I like to go in and change the back matter in my ebooks somewhat regularly, or I used to. Going to be getting back into that. And you just can't do it yourself. Like, it's very difficult to get it done if you have to wait for somebody who's already formatting a lot of other people's books to go in and change one link. And it might be $25 just to go change that link or something like that. And for me, it's just worth it to have the control to be able to do it myself. So is Atticus a really good substitute? It is a good substitute. It still has some drawbacks, but it's probably the best substitute out there. Do you need a chapter index for printed fiction books? You do not. You don't even need a chapter index for ebook fiction books. You do have to have a TOC NCX, which is the index that people can see the chapters when they're navigating, but you don't actually have to have it printed where they can like see it. It just needs to be in the actual like drop down menu. So, but with fiction is different. Nonfiction, I would put an index in there just for reference, but you don't have to have that. Some people choose to do it anyway, but it's just up to you if you want to. This was a good coffee chat. Little questions there at the end. We have three minutes left. Anybody has any more questions? Publish and Thrive starts tomorrow. I did put a link down below if anybody is still on the fence and wants to look a little bit more into what we cover, or you want to come join us. I'm excited for this round. I think it's going to be a good round. And I think that this time that we have together, it's every time we run the class, there's like updates and new stuff. But my favorite thing is the 2-hour Q&As every Saturday, because it's just so much fun to rapid fire question and answers about the industry and to have that chat every time. So I really cherish it and it gives me lots of energy. So the next Publish and Thrive after this will open sort of towards the end of July and will run, starting August 3rd. So I think it opens on July 20th or 21st, somewhere around that date. Yeah, you're enrolled. I've been waiting since I discovered it last year. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so awesome. Yes, and tomorrow is also Double Down Day. So anybody that wants to come write with us, we'll be hanging out. Double Down Day. Everybody's going to be live streaming throughout the day. And then our kickoff call for Publish and Thrive is at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So I will close the door, or actually probably Renee will be closing and turning off the pricing and the enrollment page at noon Eastern tomorrow. So if you want to come join, now's your last few hours to come join us. If not, we will run it again in August. So hopefully I will see you there. I am tinkering with the idea, potentially. I know, Double Down Day on 2/2. That would have been so cool. That would have definitely been cool. I'm tinkering with the idea of potentially booking a hotel or an Airbnb some next week to go and try to finish this book. And I feel like, I keep saying it's almost done, but this book has been probably the most difficult book, because every time I feel like I've found a twist, it affects so many other things in the story, because it's dual timelines and 8 points of view, that it's like, it's now this messed up this other thing I have to go figure out. But sitting down every morning to actually make my writing a priority, which was very much in alignment with me, has made so much difference. And I feel like the story is there, so close, like a couple questions, and I'm well into Act 2 on my edits now. So I'm like, okay, let's see if I can finish this up. And as soon as it's up and done and in the hands of George to read the rest of it, and then my beta readers, I will put it on pre-order and I will make an announcement. And then everyone who ordered paperbacks during Spooktacular, will be the first to get the actual paperbacks probably before the ebook even releases. So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully, it's coming this month or early in March. And hopefully, it's going to be everything you dreamed it would be. I'm hoping it's going to be brilliant. All right, you guys. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me on 2/2. It is beautiful and it's not sunny, but it's just rainy outside. So maybe I'm going to spend the rest of the afternoon working on my story and hanging out with the kids. All right. I love you all. I believe in you. Let's balance out that energy, find that inner voice, trust your intuition, and get ready for like literally holding the world in your hands. Anything is possible for you. And I believe in you. All right. I'll see some of you tomorrow at Publish and Thrive or Double Down Day. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Last week, I forgot to do my little exit. I got to find it. I'm so not good at this. Okay, here we go. Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend.